This is Mary Baca with Remotely Unique. I hope you all are having a wonderful day. The title of today's show is Adrenal Fatigue, the Silent Killer of Energy. And I first heard about adrenal fatigue several years ago. I think it's like 8 years ago now when I became a holistic practitioner, when I was going through my holistic kinesiology certification. And I had never heard about adrenal fatigue before that. And that was life-changing for me because, and I'll talk about what it is, but it was life-changing for me because up to that point, I didn't realize that I myself had adrenal fatigue. And so it's been a life changer for me once I figured that out, and I am taking supplements every day since then to help balance my body so that my adrenals are doing good. The adrenals are glands that sit on top of the kidneys, and that's where they get their name. So renal for kidney, and ad is on top of. And they're actually a really they're important glands for us. One, they are housed or part of the endocrine system, which is a pretty important system in our body. And so, you know, if you have adrenal fatigue, you don't want to just let it go by because it can cause a lot of other problems. It can have like a domino effect, and then you end up with really significant issues and problems. But adrenal fatigue comes from excessive stress in the body that just really taxes the adrenal glands, ending up with a result of, and I'm going to read through a list of 30 symptoms, and the symptoms are not limited to this list, but these are the ones that I see typically. So excessive fatigue and exhaustion, so having chronic fatigue. And I'll have people that come in, even people that work out a lot, and I always ask clients, whether it's people that I'm going to do energy work on or counseling clients, I always ask what their energy is like. And what I'll hear is, I don't know, it sucks. My energy sucks, and I don't know why. I work out all the time, and I don't understand it. So I always ask about that because, believe it or not, a lot of people have adrenal imbalances or imbalances in the adrenal glands. Non-refreshing sleep is another symptom. So, I tell people, well, you can spend time in bed. That doesn't mean you're sleeping. That doesn't mean that your body is getting restful sleep. Because I've heard people say, and I used to experience these things myself, where I would sleep what I thought would be all night, and I'd wake up in the morning and I did not feel refreshed. Also, sleep disturbance, so having insomnia, that's another symptom. Feeling overwhelmed or unable to cope. That's a very important thing for you to know, is that adrenal imbalances cause difficulty with mood fluctuations. Adrenals produce hormones like cortisol and adrenaline. And so if there's an imbalance, we feel it emotionally. And so there can be mood regulation issues. In fact, 2 of the symptoms on the list are also anxiety and depression. So when I get people that come in with anxiety or depression, I kind of let it be a mental note for me to really be on the lookout for adrenal fatigue as I get to know the person better. Another symptom is craving salty and or sweet foods, sensitivity to light, low stamina, and slow to recover from exercise. So here's the thing. A lot of people who work out hard also have adrenal imbalances, or it can cause adrenal imbalances because you're still stressing your system. I mean, our system does not know the difference between good stress and bad stress. So say somebody's going through a period of time where they are planning a wedding, which is very stressful. Even though that's a positive experience in life, it can cause adrenal imbalances. And that's something I think a lot of times people don't realize. So going back to the example of exercise, I'm not saying don't exercise. I'm saying support your body so that your adrenals don't take a hit, is what I'm saying. Another symptom is slow to recover from injury or illness, difficulty concentrating, so having brain fog. And recently, I had, unfortunately, a reminder about this because I was getting my supplements ready. I take an adrenal supplement, like I mentioned earlier, and I was ordering new supplements and things like that. So I took my bag of my adrenal supplements and I put it to the side. Well, I forgot to put it back into my regimen. So I had been without an adrenal supplement for at least a week, if not a week and a half. And I was having to pill myself out of bed in the morning. And I was having that kind of mental fog, and I was like, what is going on? But I didn't even realize till just yesterday or the day before what it was, that I hadn't been taking my supplement, that I had indeed forgotten to put it back in my regimen. So once I was able to realize that, I've put it back in. I'm now a couple of days with it back in, and I'm feeling so much better, and definitely I see the difference. So, that was a reminder to me how dramatic the effect is from taking the supplement that I do. Another symptom is poor digestion, irritable bowel syndrome, low immune function. So if your adrenals are not functioning well, they're not balanced, and they're just saturating your system with cortisol and adrenaline and the other hormones that are produced, it can absolutely create an adverse reaction with your immune system. Also, premenstrual syndrome that's not normal and that can be really painful or cause a lot of distress. That can be adrenal issues. Low blood pressure, menopause symptoms, and again, that are not within normal limits. Low blood pressure, I just said that. Sensitivity to cold, fearfulness, allergies, frequent influenza, so getting sick frequently, that goes back to the whole immune system issue. Arthritis even, irritability, anxiety and depression, I mentioned those. Reduced memory. Yeah, so even if you get sick, commonly, like, people tell me, and just, being a holistic practitioner, so in the healthcare field, when I just listen with a different ear, I think a lot of times than even the counselors do that work for me. So if somebody mentions that they get sick often, a lot of times I'll check them for adrenal imbalances, and I'll talk in a second about how I do that. Reduced memory, and same thing. I always ask people about their memory. That's another thing in addition to asking about their energy level, or I listen for it to see if a lot of people have memory issues for all kinds of reasons. I'm a trauma specialist, and memory issues 98.5% of the time come with trauma, because trauma impacts the brain. And I'll do a whole show on that at some point, because a lot of people have experienced trauma in their life. I'm not saying that, most people have PTSD. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that even losing a parent, losing a pet, those are traumatic experiences. And so you can imagine, like, all of us, unfortunately, will experience a trauma at some point in our life or have already, including children. Another symptom is having low libido or low sex drive or interest in sex, lack of lust for life and or food. And, so you can imagine, like, with the low libido, I've had couples that come in. I do a lot of work with first responders and healthcare professionals. And so when I'm doing couples work, if that is an issue, as you can imagine, the other spouse will take it very personal, or the significant other, and say, are you not attracted to me? You don't want to be sexual with me? And a lot of times it is because of adrenal fatigue. And so that makes a huge difference in all kinds of ways, right? But definitely I've been able to pinpoint that, address it, so that that can improve the dynamics in the relationship. Another symptom is lack of lust for life and or food. So just not really feeling motivated to do much can also be a symptom. Having excessive hunger or low appetite. So one extreme or the other, which are oftentimes symptoms of depression, but those can also be symptoms of adrenal fatigue. Panic or anxiety attacks. And again, irritability, like I mentioned, being impatient or quick to anger. Now, if someone is quick to anger, the person will often tend to back down quickly if confronted. That oftentimes is adrenal fatigue. So these are just symptoms. I will put these on the website under adrenal fatigue or articles. That's what I'll put it under. I'm going to create a place on the website for Remotely Uniques, which is remotely-unique.com. And I'll put some articles, and this list of these symptoms will be on there. I'll also put it on the resilience-integrative.com website as well. Adrenal, if you have adrenal fatigue or you have fatigue, it could also be other medical conditions. So by no means am I saying that as a holistic practitioner that holistic things replace medical attention. I want to make that clear. The best marriage is Western and Eastern medicine. Unfortunately, a lot of times Western medicine is not very welcoming to Eastern medicine techniques or even Eastern medicine professionals. I've had, unfortunately, some negative encounters with doctors who just don't validate things in this area. Not a lot, but I have had. So you always want to make sure you can try a supplement, and that is one thing. The supplements I use are pharmaceutical grade supplements. There's a holistic kinesiology clinic in town, and what I do is when I work with a client and I identify an imbalance in the body, I use a holistic technique called muscle testing, which actually works with the electrical system in the body to pinpoint imbalances. Sometimes I wished it wasn't called muscle testing because, I don't know, people conjure all kinds of things up in their mind about that. Like, are you going to hook me up to a machine? But actually, and there are machines that will muscle test. There are. I don't have one of those because they're pretty expensive. There's a way that you can do it manually. And you can, it's hard for me to show you on a podcast that's just audio, but you can go to YouTube and look up muscle testing and see plenty of examples. In the workshops that I teach, which I'm getting ready to do my training and workshop calendar for the year. So if you come to any of my workshops, I'll be teaching muscle testing. I teach muscle testing in every workshop that I do. And it's pretty funny because when I first heard of muscle testing, which was when I was looking into becoming a holistic kinesiologist, I was the biggest skeptic that you could ever meet. I was just like, there's no way. That can't be real. That's too weird. Is that true? And a good friend of mine, Lorraine Milligan, I always mention her because she had already been a holistic kinesiologist for many years. And she just would laugh at me and say, just take the course, yes, it's real, And I'm so glad I listened to her because now I work with people. And so, I use muscle testing every day. I use muscle testing to check on my dog's food and make sure that what I'm giving them agrees with their system. Not in general, but their particular little system. I'll muscle test foods to make sure I'm not allergic to something in that food. Oftentimes I'll go to a restaurant and I'll muscle test what I'm going to eat to make sure that everything in that food is that my body's going to be okay with it. You can also get a hold of me and schedule like an in-person muscle testing little tutorial or session. So you can also do that. But it's important that, you know, like with anything else, if you are experiencing adrenal fatigue, that you keep in mind other things like Addison's disease is, for example, a disorder that can be characterized by insufficient cortisol production. And it can either be because of pathology that directly affects the adrenals, or even some signaling in the brain that's disrupted and causes this imbalance in the adrenals. So you definitely want to, like I said, make sure, you know, you're not substituting anything for medical attention. But I'll tell you, I've suggested adrenal supplements to a lot of people. Again, first responders, healthcare workers, and then just the public in general after testing them, doing muscle testing. The muscle testing, it's a technique, but really I use points that are part of the meridian system and monitoring points that I learned in my kinesiology program during my certification course. So you apply those monitoring points to figure out if somebody has adrenal fatigue. You can't just use muscle testing alone to figure out if you have adrenal fatigue. It is something, whether you see a Western medicine provider or an Eastern medicine provider, it is something that has to be diagnosed and addressed. It can't just be done simply with muscle testing. I want to make that clear. But yeah, so with holistic kinesiology, there's different monitoring points that I've been trained to tap into to be able to determine if somebody has imbalances in their body, whether it's an imbalance in an organ system. But I would say probably the one that I do the most work on or addressing issues in is adrenal fatigue. Okay. The other thing is adrenal fatigue can even be connected to autoimmune diseases. And a lot of times people think that because they have an autoimmune disease, that they're just stuck with the fallout. And that, I believe, and as a holistic practitioner, I have seen and experienced with people that I've worked with and done provided some of these services to, that just isn't true. You know, that you really can support your system in ways that are really helpful. So, for example, I've had type 2 diabetes for over 30 years, and I have no medical complications from that disease. And I do all kinds of work. I do mental work, like I don't talk to myself like I have a disease. Yes, of course, I live with, I do take medication, and that's why I'll tell you, like, I don't believe that Eastern medicine is a replacement for Western medicine. But in addition to the medication that I take, I also take these supplements. I have a regimen of supplements that I take and have been for at least 8 years, every day, and they make all the difference in the world. When I go see doctors, they're pretty freaked out, to be honest, that I don't have any complications from that disease. And they, a lot of the time, will tell me, well, at some point you're going to be on insulin. That's just the progression of the disease. And what I say to them is, well, we're not going to have that conversation now because that's not where my body is now. And yeah, that's what I tell them. I say, so until, if and when that's the case, we're not having that conversation now. So the reason why I'm mentioning that is because what we say to ourselves and how we talk to our body is really important. If you walk around thinking you're sick, your body is going to hear that and your body is going to respond accordingly. And I'm not saying that we have full, 100% over, us developing disease, okay? But I would say a good percentage. And again, that's my belief. You don't have to agree. It doesn't have to resonate with you. You can disagree even. My whole point of saying that is not to have you agree or not agree. Agree or not agree. it's just to get you thinking about some things, right? Because we're brought up in a society that if we're told we have a disease, we're taught how to talk to ourselves like that. And then you take a medication, and then the medication has side effects, and then that medication has more side effects. And before you know it, you have this cascade of problems and issues from the side effects alone of the medication. So, it can just be a mess. And I hate to see people go down that road, because I really just feel, and I've experienced through my own experience and other people, that it doesn't have to be like that. Some other supplements you can take that helps ease adrenal fatigue are vitamin C, magnesium, B vitamins, CoQ10, so coenzyme Q10, ashwagandha. There's a firefighter that I know, and he takes ashwagandha, and it has made all the difference for him. I'm sure he'll probably listen to this podcast, but I'm not gonna identify who he is, of course. But it's just made such a profound impact in his thinking and his view on life, and again, because our body, if we have something going on with our body, it does affect us emotionally. And with the adrenals, as you saw in the list that I mentioned, it does affect our emotional regulation and all of that. So if you get the adrenal system under control, then, you don't see a lot of those symptoms. So it's really done well for him. I mean, I can't even believe the changes in him. Truly, I'm so proud of him. And then also licorice root, too, is another supplement that you can take to help ease adrenal fatigue. With muscle testing, one of the things I do when people come in for a consultation is I'll use muscle testing and holistic kinesiology to figure out which of these supplements would be helpful for their body. And I'll give you an example. I'm also a doTERRA consultant or distributor. And if I bought every oil that doTERRA puts out, because I do think they put out amazing oils, I mean, the people that, the way the production of doTERRA oil is people go out and pick plants, and that eventually becomes an oil. I mean, that's pretty cool. Very, very powerful. But anyway, so if I went and bought every oil that smells good, I could do that. That would be crazy. But instead what I do is I muscle test, and I teach people how to muscle test, because you can use muscle testing on choosing oils that are specifically going to benefit your body. So for example, frankincense oil is an amazing oil that can address all kinds of issues in the body. You can even use frankincense, and I have made that suggestion to clients who have had cancer and who have been going through chemotherapy. And so you can use like a combination or a regimen of oils to address the side effects of chemotherapy. But I can muscle test to figure out how many, and this is using holistic kinesiology points, monitoring points and testing points, is to figure out how many drops of the oil to take. Is that oil going to be beneficial? Is it safe? Can you use it in combination with other things you might be taking, like other vitamins and things like that? So that's an example of, some of the things you can use muscle testing on your own for. And then there's a fine line where you really need more of a healthcare approach to determine things. But with frankincense, great oil, but every time I test for it, I don't test for it. So I don't buy it. And frankincense, that oil is like about $95. It'll last you forever because you're using a drop. It'll last a long, long time. But if I didn't know how to do muscle testing, I would have bought the oil a long time ago. And it's not going to hurt my body, but it's not going to really do much to my body because my body doesn't need it. So that's one of the really, really awesome things about muscle testing and about holistic kinesiology. That's pretty amazing. Yeah. So let me know if you reach out to me if you have any other questions. I know I had put a post on Facebook about a week ago asking if people wanted more information, and I did have a few people respond. So you can do that. You can shoot me a text at 505 315-7397 to schedule a consultation or an appointment. You can reach out and just ask a question, and if I feel like it's beyond just, a simple answer, then I'll suggest you come in for a consultation. But you can reach out that way. You can also leave me a message through the website, remotely-unique.com. You can do that. Or resilience-integrative.com. I have all these hyphens because it just makes it easier to remember them, to be honest with you, because I have 4 businesses and 5 websites. So as you can imagine, it gets a little, crazy to keep track. But I really wanted to come on and talk about adrenal fatigue because it really can make all the difference in the world. I've seen some people start taking a adrenal support supplement and they no longer have symptoms of anxiety and depression. So I know that, like, if I forget my adrenal supplement, I am moody. Like, I am snappy. Things that wouldn't usually bother me irritate me and bother me. And so I have experienced this firsthand, and then I start taking my supplement and I'm loving life again and happy and sparky and all of that. So I hope you listen to this, and yeah, that's it. Have a great, great day, and I will talk to you again next Monday. Take care.